negative under your radical, we have to start by taking out an I. Do any perfect squares go into 15?
No.
No. Okay, let's take an I out of the bottom as well. From here, you have different options. You can reduce the radical on the denominator, and that's fine. You could also just reduce, since both of these are under a square root. Type 15 over 153 in your calculator. And tell me that fraction in lowest terms. What does that reduce to?
5 over 51.
Okay. We know we can't leave a radical in the denominator, so we multiply by radical 51 on top and bottom. So we get radical 255 over 51. Square root of 255, you would check. It's only divisible by 3, 5, and 17, so no perfect squares go into it. So that's our answer. Number 3, we change our minus to a plus, distribute that negative, and now all you're doing is adding like terms. So, negative 2 plus 4 is 2, 3i and negative 3i cancel, so my answer is just 2. On any of those, make sure it has to be written in standard form, a plus bi. So if you did have i's left, that has to be written second on your answer. This one, we cannot have an I in the denominator. So how do I get rid of that? Multiply by behind. So the conjugate, same thing, but a different sign on the I. Then we have to FOIL. So we get negative 6 minus 3i plus 8i plus 4i squared. On the bottom we get 4 plus 2i minus 2i minus I squared. Three I plus 8i is 5i. What is 4i squared? These cancel. So I have 4 minus I squared. Right, so it's 4 minus negative 1, so positive 1. So I get negative 10 plus 5i over 5. So negative 10 over 5 is negative 2. 5i over 5 is I. So we just get negative 2 plus I. Make sure questions 8 and 9, you have to show work on those. If you just write down an answer, I'm not going to give you credit. So there's only 4 possible answers on those. 1, negative 1, I, negative I. So remember, any power of I, if I just made up one. If I said I to the 53rd power, what would you do? You know every time you get I squared, what does it turn into? Negative 1. So if you have 53 of them, how many groups of 2 can you make?
26.
And 2 times 26 is 52. I need 53, so there's one more I. So I squared is negative 1 to the 26 times I. If you take a negative to an even power, you get if it's an odd power, it's negative. If it's an even power, it's positive. So our answer on that one is just I. If I gave you guys I to the 128th power, what would you do? Okay, so tell me what I write. I'm going to keep doing these until you guys tell me what to do. What's I squared? What's negative 1 to the 64th power? Do we need another one? think so?
No tip.
Okay. So this is back from our earlier graphing quadratics. We talked about with quadratics finding your vertex opposite of b over 2a, and that's what we keep practicing. But on this one, to do the opposite of b over 2a, I have to multiply it all out, and that becomes pretty time consuming. However, we can think about some things, and it's actually not too complicated at all. It's a positive 1/5, so just open up or down? Up, so do we have a maximum or a minimum? So on this one, it's set up for transformations. This could have been a question on your last test. We know a parabola normally looks like this. Okay, what is that plus 5 going to do? What's the minus 7 going to do? So that's my vertex. It ends up at -5, -7. The axis of symmetry, it's a line, so you'll always have to say x equals the x value of the vertex. So x equals -5 is my axis of symmetry. Y-intercept, that's where you hit the y-axis, which means your x is 0. So we get -2, so I hit my axis at -2. And then you can either do your transformations or just think about our reflection. This is 5 away from the axis of symmetry. So it's going to go 5 the other direction. So I have my graph. Domain, always negative infinity, positive infinity, because the ends just keep getting wider. The range, my lowest value is at -7. We do touch it, so it's a bracket, and it's going up forever. So -7 to infinity. So just because this one was written in vertex form, it was easier to think about transformations to get your vertex than it was to do the opposite of b over 2a. Any questions on that? Let's look at problem 14. All right. On these quadratics, unless we are able to do the square root method, we have to get it equal to 0. All right, when I look at this, it's equal to 3. This is not just a add a square root to each side problem. So we need to first multiply it out. We get 14x squared plus x, and I can subtract over my 3. So then we can do slip and slide. What multiplies to -42 and adds to +1? +7 and -6. We have to divide the 14 back. So 2x plus 1. Over here, if we divide by 3, or sorry, divide by 2, we get 7x minus 3. Set those equal to 0. We get the -1/2 and the +3/7. Anything else on this page? Mm, 27. A homeowner needs to build a fence for the dog in the backyard. The yard is rectangular in shape, so I'm going to to draw a rectangle. And no fence will be placed along the house. So I don't only need fence on 3 sides. Does that mean every time I give you one of these, it'll be 3 sides? No, we've seen some with 3 sides, some with 4 sides. You have to pay attention. Okay, the homeowner only has enough money to purchase 110 feet of fence. What does 110 represent? The perimeter, the distance around. So if I label these sides, I could call those two are the same, so they would be X, this one would be Y. If I had 4 sides, I would just have another Y up here. So it's saying if I add all those together, it equals 110. You have to solve for Y because we don't want 2 variables. So Y is 110 minus 2X. What dimensions of the fence will provide the maximum area? So we need the area. Area of a rectangle is just length times width. So in our case, that would be X times 110 minus 2X, or 110X minus 2X squared. Anytime I ask for a max or a min, what am I asking you to find? Vertex. How do we do vertex? So the opposite of B is the 110, over 2 times A, which is negative 2. And when you divide those, you get? Then you just have to answer the question. This one only asks for the dimensions. So we have 27.5 feet by, to find our Y, plug that back in, and you get 55. So our fence is 27.5 feet by 55 feet. If I asked you for the maximum area, what would you do? Plug it back into your area equation. So I could ask for dimensions, I could ask for area, I could ask for both. Just depends. All right. Is that one okay? Let's look at the last one. So consider our equation. X squared plus y squared plus 10x minus 2y plus 17 equals 0. All right, I want the equation of the circle. So we have to complete the square. So we put our x's together, leave a little space. Put your y's together, leave a little space. And we have to subtract over the 17. How do we complete the square?
Take 10 divided by 2 is squared.
Yes. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. But it's an equation, so if I add 5 to one side, we add it to the other. Okay, we do the same thing with our y's. So negative 2 divided by 2 squared. So negative 1 squared is 1. So we add 1 to both sides. Now we're factoring. What multiplies to 25 and adds to 10? So that's x plus 5 squared. What multiplies to 1 and adds to negative 2? Y minus 1 squared equals 9. This is the equation of a circle. Remember, circles are x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we now have our equation. Our center is the hk. I told you the easiest way to remember it is just what makes this parenthesis equal 0. So what makes x plus 5 equal 0? What makes y minus 1 equal 0? And then your radius. What you have to remember there, 9 is r squared. So if I want r, we have to square root 9. so the radius is 3. This one did ask for a graph, so I told you when you graph it, you start with your center, -5, 1. Your radius is 3, so then you go 3 every direction. Up, down, right and left. And then you get your circle. So we know if we're going to do this, we have to regroup, put the x's together. So that would be x squared minus 6x, put those together, plus y squared plus 4y, put those together, move over the 3. Completing the square, so middle term divided by 2 squared. So that's -3 squared, which is 9, so you add 9 to both sides. This one you have 4 divided by 2 squared, so 2 squared is 4, so you add 4 to both sides. So this would factor into x minus 3 squared, be y plus 2 squared equals 16. So that's the equation. What's our center? What's my radius?
4.
Does it have to be a perfect square? No, if not, you just write it in radical form, lowest terms. If I asked you to graph it, could you? Put a dot at 3, -2, and then count 4 every direction. All right. Second one, you have a rectangle, so we should draw a rectangle. The perimeter is 120, so I know in a rectangle, opposite sides are equal, so I can call these x and y. Perimeter is when you add all 4 sides, so 2x plus 2y equals 120. We can't solve it with 2 variables, so get y by itself. Divide by 2, so we get 60 minus x. So instead of calling this side y, I'm going to call it 60 minus x. How do we do area? How do you find area of a rectangle? X times 60 minus x. So you get 60x minus x squared. Maximum or minimum is vertex. So you do the opposite of b, so that would be a -60 over 2 times -1. So -60 divided by -2 is 30. Then you just have to answer the question. This time I said give me the maximum area. So I am going to plug 30 into my area equation. So if I do that. So we get 900. So the maximum area is 900 square inches. That one okay? I'm going to put a few more problems up here for you to try. Let's do kind of start talking about this. What do we do for the first one?
Take out an X.
Okay. So if we do that, we have x times negative 3x minus 2 greater than or equal to 0. We can set those to 0 and we get 0 and negative 2/3. But it's an inequality, which means you should get an interval for your answer. What I've had you do is draw a really rough sketch. So it's hitting the x-axis at 0 and negative 2/3. Does this parabola open up or down? Down. We wanted greater than 0. Greater than is above the axis. So I want this section. So my answer would be from negative 2/3 to 0. And it gets brackets because of the equal to. So if it's an inequality, you have to give me an interval. Everything between those values works. Okay, if I look at the second one, what would I need to do? Right? What could you divide everything by? 2, I think. You want to make it a little bit nicer. Okay, so then we can do slip and slide, so we get x squared plus 5x minus 6. So multiply to negative 6, add to positive 5 would be plus 6 minus 1. Divide our 3 back. We get x plus 2, 3x minus 1. It's equal to 0 at negative 2 and 1/3. Right, so if you think about your graph, negative 2 and 1/3, did this parabola open up or down? It was up. Greater than is above, so this one's above the axis on the ends. So it would be negative infinity to negative 2, union 1/3 to infinity. Are we okay with that one? C. So we have some equations now. What would you do on this one? Anytime you add a square root, what do you have to put in front? So it'd be x minus 6 equals plus or minus. We have to break apart the square root of negative 45. So 45 breaks into 9 and 5. We had a negative, so we would take out an I. So that's 3i radical 5. So if we add over our 6, x is 6 plus and minus 3i radical 5. And the last one, what should we do? Right, we need these to be equal to 0, so you have to subtract over your 4. We do slip and slide. Same thing, multiply to negative 20 and add to positive 3. So we have to do quadratic formula. So we need to do it before we try to slip and slide, so based off this one. So you have to know this, opposite of b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So the opposite of b will give us negative 3, plus or minus the square root, 3 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 4. Alright, so then we get 9 plus 80, so square root of 89. Okay, do any perfect squares go into 89? No. So that's our answer. Is there anything else you guys want me to go over? So the test is tomorrow. Make sure if you owe me any late work that